What a weekend it was. My Duke Blue Devils, 2 games away from sending Coach Mike Krzyzewski off, riding into the sunset. We looked like we were left for dead at the end of the regular season and even falling short in the ACC tournament. And now look where we are. Unfinished business, but it feels good. Feels good to be staring in the face of our most hated rivals as we head to the Final Four. First time in history of the tournament these two teams have met. I can't believe that. It's crazy. My Memphis Grizzlies have clinched a playoff spot. Second team in the league to do so. Second team in the league to reach 50 victories. And Ja Morant is out. We beat the New Jersey Nets, or excuse me, showing my age, the Brooklyn Nets by 17. We beat the defending NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks without Ja Morant, both games, by 25. And we're playing exceptional basketball as we head down the home stretch of the regular season. And then there's the blackest thing that could happen at the whitest event ever. What a time to be alive. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 249th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Y'all smell that? I think I smell another trade in the National Football League coming down the pipeline. We will talk about that a little bit later as we get into smoke and mirrors. Is it smoke and mirrors? Or is it legit? You guys will tell me a little bit later on. It'll be a pseudo social media maneuvers / smoke and mirrors. We'll get to that later on in the show. A bevy of topics to tackle a little bit later on in the show. I haven't spoken to you guys since the last time. I think it was Wednesday. May have been Thursday. I think it was Wednesday. Deshaun Watson had his presser since the last time we've spoken. So we got to double back and we got to clean up a lot of the things that came from that. I got a lot of things to say about that topic. So we're going to dive into that first. Spring training's right around the corner, or excuse me, the start of the MLB regular season is right around the corner. We're dead in the heat of spring training and the exhibition league, or what is it? Spring training, right? I think it's just spring training. Grapefruit League and all the nonsense that's going on. My World Series defending champion Atlanta Braves looking to defend the crown. Man, what a time to be alive as a fan. My teams are just thriving right now. I just got one team that's in the shitter. Maybe one day I'll be able to talk about them in the same light that I talk about my young Grizzlies and my young Braves and these young Duke Blue Devils. Only if one day I'll be able to dream. Until then, let's talk about things that are actually happening in reality. And we're going to get to the slap heard around the world a little bit later on in the show. You already know. We're going to talk about that. But before we do that, and again, this is going to be a smoke and mirrors / social media maneuver. So start lining up your comments. Use the hashtag LouieTLive. If you want to jump to the front of the line, you know how to do that. Use the super chat function. We'll do that a little bit later on in the show. But I got to start with a Gem Droppin Session. You already know how this goes. Let's do it. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. I mean, open your wide up. I want to drop this melon in your dome. Deshaun Watson spoke to the media, made himself available for the first time since the allegations of over 20 women were made against him in sexual assault, multiple sexual assault cases. It's one of those situations that's really hard for all of those people involved, but the people who have endured something along those lines, I can tell you, as a man, not a black man in particular, just a man in general, it's tough because in this country, and it's I think accelerated because he is a black man, okay, because you add the color and his race into the mix, but just being a man, it's tough to defend yourself against these types of allegations because you don't want to victim shame, right? Because there are women that have been through traumatic experiences that were afraid to come out because of this very thing. No one's going to believe them. It was their fault. They're lying. So they don't want to come out. And they've actually been through a traumatic experience. So you don't want to dismiss the 22 allegations against Deshaun Watson. But on the other hand, we live in a country where it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But in these particular instances, when a woman launches accusations, usually it's guilty until proven innocent. And even if you're proven innocent, whether it's a technicality or they don't have enough evidence, and we know you did it, but there's not enough evidence, OJ, even if we know that you're guilty, but you're proven innocent, there's still a stigma attached to you. Even if Deshaun Watson doesn't have a single criminal charge pressed against him, which looks like that's going to be the case, and he doesn't pay a single red cent in civil court, there will still be people that think he was guilty of something. That's unfair, but that's how this thing goes. I don't like it one bit. I don't like it at all because I always say, just put yourself in his shoes. Look, I always say, if you don't put yourself in these types of positions, then you have nothing to worry about. That's not always true. Okay? That's not always true. Sometimes dudes catch strays. You're just hanging around, loitering, and you catch a stray and you had nothing to do with it. It happens. However, a lot of times, if you steer clear of foolishness, then you don't get entangled. See what I did there? You don't get entangled. See what I did there? Some of y'all did, some of y'all didn't. In stuff like this, you don't find yourself in an entanglement. All he needed was one masseuse. He had 22. That's how you get yourself in trouble. Anyway, there were going to be people on both sides of this thing, and we knew that. This is going to be a polarizing topic for a while. At some point, I think this thing will die down, just like Ben Roethlisberger and his situation once upon a time. There are still people that look at Ben Roethlisberger and they call him a rapist, and he will never be anything other than a rapist to them. Those allegations happened over a decade ago, and there are still people calling Ben Roethlisberger a rapist, and that will never go away. That stigma will never go away. And I think it's going to be the same thing for Deshaun Watson. There'll be some people that can't stand the side of him, won't root for him in a Cleveland Browns uniform, even though they are diehard Cleveland Browns fans. That said, what's done is done. The man is a Cleveland Brown. The ink has dried on that contract, and he spoke to the media last week. First time he's spoken since his quick, brief celebration, I guess you could call it, when he was essentially told that no criminal charges would be filed because there wasn't enough evidence per a grand jury. So he felt like he had been vindicated. He spoke then, but this was the first time he was available to the media for questions, fire away, with his brand new team as he was being introduced as the brand new member, the newest member of the Cleveland Browns. So you knew they were going to ask him questions surrounding his situation. It was unavoidable. I'm pretty sure he had prepped for this and had been, drilled on what he should say and how he should go about it. If they didn't, then they were, really misguided there. But I'm pretty sure he went through a mock interview, press conference multiple times because he knew these questions were going to come. And he pretty much swears that he's innocent and he's not sitting there and taking culpability for anything. He was asked, does he need any kind of help? Does he need counseling? He's like, well, counseling is for people that have an issue. I don't have an issue. I don't have a problem. So I don't think I need help. So hence, I don't need counseling. So I might beg to differ, bro. Okay. If you've got 22 different masseuses who are giving you happy endings, so to speak, there may be a little problem. Maybe not, whatever. That's not my business. The bottom line is he is adamant that he didn't do anything wrong. And that's what you want to hear from a innocent man. But we've heard this before, Rafael Palmeiro was adamant. He banged the table and said that he did not take steroids. He lied. So, this is what you're supposed to say. There are a lot of people in prison right now that swore they've never done anything. Okay, if you say so, at the end of the day, he's continuing to stand on what he said the entire time, which is I haven't done anything. And I'm not going to apologize for anything. I don't regret anything I've done because I didn't do anything wrong. There are a lot of people out there that don't like that because they want him to admit, that's always the thing. I just admit, just fess up to what you've done. Well, if I didn't do anything, if I didn't feel like I did anything, then I can't I can't cop to something that I didn't do, or at least I didn't feel like I did. So that's one, part of this discussion. Let's move that aside because we've kind of talked about that a bit. I feel like that's something that's going to continue to be harped on. I don't want to continue to beat that horse. All right. I want to flip this on to the B side. I like to do the B side. And so when you flip this thing over to the B side, there are a couple of things. There are a couple of tracks over there. And for a lot of you, you have no idea what a B side is, right? You grew up, it's streaming services. What's a cassette tape? What's a single? What's a B side? What's an album? Anyway, we flip this thing over, and there are two tracks on the B side of this single. Okay. The first track on the B side is how close Deshaun Watson actually came to being an Atlanta Falcon. Now, I want to add another part to this, another layer to this, because something else he said that I found very phony, and this is when I find it hard to believe everything that comes out of your mouth when you make statements like this, okay? Deshaun Watson shunned. So put a pin in the Atlanta Falcons talk for a second. We'll come back and we'll pull that out. We'll revisit that. Deshaun Watson said that he didn't know how much the Browns were offering him before he agreed to sign with the Browns. He just thought it was the right fit. Bullshit. Who do you think you're talking to, and why do you think you need to lie to us? Do we look like we got boo-boo the fool written over our damn foreheads? Seriously, dude, stop it. And this is why it's hard to believe you when you tell us you're innocent, when you lie about something as simple as, hey, they gave me a contract I couldn't refuse. 5 years, 230, all guaranteed money. If I get suspended, they're going to pretty much let me off the hook. Hey, I couldn't turn it down, and neither would you. That's the truth. You turned the Browns down initially because you didn't want to come to Cleveland. Don't tell me you didn't know what the contract was, because that's what made you turn the car around and drive back to Cleveland and say, hey, you still think I can get the deal with the Cleveland Browns? You didn't do that because you had a change of heart. You were lining up teammates in Atlanta. You called up Jarvis Landry. So let's take that pen out now. You called up Jarvis Landry, who had been released by these same Cleveland Browns, and said, hey, what you think about joining me in Atlanta? You called up Leonard Fournette and you said, hey, Leonard, bruh, I think I'm about to go to Atlanta. I got Jarvis coming. Won't you come and join us too, man? We really could change the game over there. They got Kyle Pitts. They got some stuff. They got Cordero Patterson. I'm telling you, we could tear some shit up. And those boys were ready to join. And then the Browns went to Baker Mayfield and said, hey, Bake, we love you, bro. And he was like, don't come over here talking that shit, man. Y'all stabbed me in my back. They smiling in your face all the time. They want to take your place. Them backstabbers. Backstabbers. Baker said, get out my face. You a backstabber. They said, oh, it's like that? You damn right it's like that. I put my middle name in that letter I pinned to the fans. I'm out of this bitch. Okay. Deshaun, baby. Come on back. I got 5 years, 230, fully guaranteed. You get suspended. We got you, bro. Don't worry about it. Atlanta, can you match that? Nah, bro. I can't do that. All right, Cleveland it is. I'll see y'all in a couple of days to sign. Don't tell me you didn't know what the deal was. You just wanted to be in Cleveland. Bro, stop it. Why is you lying? Why is you lying? Why? 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 Come on, man. If you really think we believe that, you need to wash your face and get your mind right. Anyway, that was the part of the interview that I think really pissed me off. Not that he is unremorseful, because I don't want the man to be remorseful for something he says he didn't do. I'm not here to play judge, jury, or executioner. I want the truth. That's a lie. I can't prove whether you sexually assaulted 22 women, 1, 2, or 22. Okay? 1 is one too many. I don't know if you did that or not. But I do know you knew the contract. Nobody goes in and says, I want to play for this team. I don't care what the contract says. Make it happen, agent. Nobody says that. Okay? Nobody says, I'll sign it blind. You ever seen the show Buy It Blind? Where people give real estate agents a boatload of money, $500,000-$600,000 essentially. Go get me a house. They buy it blind. They tell them what they want, what they're looking for, some of the amenities that they need, what they want to be in close proximity to, and they go out, they find a fixer-upper, or they find a solid house that just needs a little bit of work, and they go and they fix it up, and that person hasn't seen the house, and then they drive them to the house when they're done, and they say, open up your eyes, surprise, this is your house. That is not what Deshaun Watson just did. You did not say, hey, I don't care what the contract looks like. I just want to play for Cleveland. Make it happen. I'll sign on the dotted line when you're done. That is not what he did. That man was set to go to Atlanta, was lining up guys that he wanted to sign there to make the Falcons a contender. And then the Browns came with an offer he could not refuse. Deshaun, 5 years, $230 million. Come on, baby. Sign the deal. It's an offer he could not refuse. And I know my Italian accent is horrible. That's the point. Don't lie to me, babe. Don't lie to me, man. Last thing I want to tackle here. Where does this put the Cleveland Browns in the pantheon of the AFC conference? Deshaun Watson, I think, may get a slap on the wrist. The league doesn't like being embarrassed. They don't like being drugged through the mud. This is a black eye on the league. Whether he did anything or not, it's still something they have to answer to. It's still something that is going to make the league look bad. And so I think just by virtue of that, they're going to slap him on the wrist. There may be a 2-game suspension, maybe 3. He appeals and they reduce it to 2. Whatever the case may be. He comes back, he plays 15 games if he gets suspended for 2. He comes back, he plays 13 games if he gets suspended for 4. Where does this put the Cleveland Browns? They're not done yet. They could go out and get another receiver. Even if they don't go out and get another receiver, they don't have a first-round pick, clearly, because they gave that to the Houston Texans. But this is a deep draft. They'll be able to get a receiver in the 3rd round. And again, they don't need a number 1, you know. So they've got stuff there. You know, Anthony Schwartz, Rashard Higgins, Amari Cooper. They got stuff already. It's not like the cupboard is bare. The tight end position is loaded, right? So, and the running back position is one of the best in football between Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. So they're loaded offensively, and not to mention their offensive line is stacked. It's a good football team offensively. You add in Deshaun Watson to the mix, and all of a sudden the Cleveland Browns are right in the mix. Where do you put them in the AFC conference? Or the AFC? I hate when people say that. The AFC conference. You do know AFC stands for American Football Conference. So when you say AFC conference, it's American Football Conference. It's just the AFC. Anyway, maybe I'm the only one that does that. I hate when I do that. Let me speak for myself. Where are they in the AFC now with Deshaun Watson on board? I'd like to think that with Deshaun Watson, this team goes straight to the top of the AFC North. I mean, I love what the Bengals have done. I love Joe Burrow. Think he's super talented. I love their roster and what they've done with it. I think the Ravens are scary with a healthy Lamar Jackson. That defense still has question marks. They move on from Wink Martindale. They're going to have a different guy in there calling the shots defensively. We'll see how that goes. I still think they're lacking some of the pieces that are necessary to make that defense what they want it to be. We'll see if they can address some of that via the draft. But I think the Ravens are a dangerous team. I don't think they're better than the Browns. Remember, this is the same Browns team that molested these same Ravens last season in Baltimore, embarrassed them. So, or that might have been Cincinnati. I might be thinking about Cincinnati. It might have been the Browns too. I mean, the Ravens weren't great in the division last year. So anyway, this is a Browns team that is really good. And I think with Deshaun Watson, I think their roster overall might be better than, I don't know, man, Cincinnati, boy, with Joe Burrow and all the talent they have on offense. They're going to miss CJ Uzomah, but they can replace him in the draft this year with all the tight ends that'll be coming out. They like Drew Sample. I don't love him. But I don't know, man. That's a pretty talented roster too in Cincinnati. Man, and you know the Steelers aren't a slouch, but you know their quarterback situation leaves a lot to be desired. I think Deshaun Watson puts the Browns at the top of that division, and then I think you could even start to look at them in the pantheon of the AFC as a whole. Obviously, that AFC West is just a juggernaut. It's like I talked about all offseason. It's an arms race. It's dangerous out there. I wouldn't set foot in there. If you're an outsider, it's not safe. If you're not from that neighborhood, I suggest you stay out of it because you may not walk out alive. But I look around at the rest of the conference. I'm like, hey, any team in the AFC North could walk into the AFC East and do damage. Same with the AFC South. Like those two divisions don't scare anybody. There's a team in the AFC East in Buffalo that's creme de la creme, one of the best in the conference, but the rest of that division, they're playing catch up. AFC South, I mean, again, Texans stink, Jags stink, but the Jags are trying to put some shit together. I love what they've done this offseason, getting Doug Peterson in there. I think they're going to really take a huge step forward, but they still got a long ways to go. And of course, you've got the Colts. They went out and got Matt Ryan. They think they're a good football team. We'll see if they are or not. And then, the Tennessee Titans, they've been good, but no one's afraid of the Tennessee Titans because they have Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. So to me, they're better than 7 of the 8 teams that make up those two divisions. I think Buffalo is still ahead of Cleveland. And when you go out west, man, it's scary out there. I really don't know if I can put them over any of those teams yet because I got to see it. in that division is going to be dog eat dog. I think Deshaun Watson puts them somewhere in that 4 to 5 range in the AFC, because I think right now I think if you slide the Bengals in front of them, they're 5. If you put them on top of the Bengals, they're 4. I think right now I'd still have Buffalo. I know Kansas City lost Tyreek Hill, and it's going to be a big effing deal, but they're gonna add talent. Like, they're not going to stay stagnant. They still got Patrick Mahomes. They still got Travis Kelce. They added Juju Smith-Schuster. They just added. I told you guys they were sniffing around MVS. They just added him, and they're going to draft someone. And they still got Mecole Hardman. They're going to draft another guy. They're going to be fine. Okay, they won't be the explosive Chiefs of old. Maybe they'll be even more explosive. Who's to say? But they're going to miss Tyreek Hill, but they're still dangerous because they still got Patrick Mahomes. They still got Andy Reid, and they still got Travis Kelce. So I still got the Chiefs. I still got the Bills. And I think the Broncos are there now too, and I hate to dismiss the Chargers, but until I see the Chargers do it, I don't trust their head coach. That's the problem with the Chargers, is that he's too aggressive for me. And look, when you bet on your team, if they step up to the plate and knock it out of the park for you, you look like a genius. Ask Doug Peterson. But if you swing and miss enough times, that shit gets old and you cost your team, which he did last year. So I still don't trust their head coach. So I'm going to put the Browns, because I really like Kevin Stefanski. Think he's a really good head coach. I'm going to put the Browns over the Chargers for now. But the 3 teams I have ahead of them in the conference are the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Bills. Now, easily the Bengals could slide in front of them, and I wouldn't be shocked if the Chargers slid in front of them too. But for right now, those are the 3 teams I see ahead of them. What do you guys say? I don't know. They're going to be a dangerous team. Whether you like Deshaun Watson or not, you don't respect him. You got to respect his game. You may not love him as a person, but he's a hell of a quarterback, and his ability to get it done on the football field could elevate this Cleveland Browns team to new heights. So I think that's going to be a very interesting scenario, to say the least. But lot going on with that situation. It's very convoluted, if you ask me. We'll see how all of it sorts itself out. But Deshaun Watson back in the fold, now a member of the Cleveland Browns officially, and they're ready to hit the ground running. They claim they did a full investigation into Deshaun Watson's situation, despite not talking. We've already had this discussion, so I don't really need to rehash it. Despite not talking to Tony Busby, the lawyer for the 22 women, or any of the 22 women for that matter, they feel like they've gathered enough information to feel confident that Deshaun Watson is the right man for the job. So we shall see. Anyway, let's get to our next segment, and it's smoke and mirrors. So you know what time of the year it is. I tell you this all the time. I'm going to continue to tell you this until my face turns blue, like this Memphis Grizzlies hat I have on. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man Louie T. This time of the year, it's lion season. Everybody's got an agenda. Everybody's looking to position themselves, and they're jockeying and vying for the top spot. And you do whatever it takes to get where you need to be to make your team better. And if that includes lying or stretching the truth, teams have no problems doing it. We've already seen it this offseason, where the Seattle Seahawks said, oh, we're not trading Russell Wilson. We're not even entertaining phone calls. When teams call, we hang up the phone. 2 days later, he's traded. Okay, so it's lion season, man. So now it's time to talk about some smoke and mirrors, and whether you believe these things to be truthful or smoke and mirrors. We got to start with the biggest topic of the day, set social media ablaze, gave us memes that will live forever, images that will never be able to be wiped from the memory bank. Let me tell you a quick story. So my wife's best friend also happens to be one of my really good friends. But it's my wife's best friend. I'm only really good friends with her because of my wife. I would have never met her if not for my wife, but She's great people, not good people, great peoples. So she's on socials last night, and rarely do I respond to anything on Facebook. Rarely do I. Facebook is a very black and dark hole that I don't like to go down, because it's a rabbit hole that if you allow it to, you will find yourself wasting 2-3 hours of your life you can never get back. Because what Facebook does an incredibly good and efficient job of doing is tying in your past to your present. So you click on one person's page that you haven't seen since high school because you want to see how they look. You want to be nosy. That's what Facebook allows you to do. Let's call a spade a spade. Facebook allows you to be nosy and to remember people's birthdays that you wouldn't have remembered had Facebook not reminded you. That's what Facebook is good for. So you click on someone's page that you haven't seen since high school because you want to see how they look, if they got kids, if they're married, if they let themselves go, if they still look good, whatever the case may be. We're humans. That's what we do. And then Facebook says, hey, if you know this person, then you should know this person. You're like, shit, I ain't seen him since middle school. So you click on that. And that person knows 12 people that you follow. So they then include another person that you should know. And then you say, shit, click on this person. And then next thing you know, you're clicking on photos, you're clicking on this, and you've gone down a rabbit hole. 2.5 hours later, you're on Facebook reading comments, looking at shit you got no business doing. So I try to stay off of Facebook. It's a death trap of time. But she wrote a comment, she being my wife's best friend, that just I had to respond to. And it was a comment about the Oscars. And it was, best movie. And she's like, does anybody know any of these movies? And I couldn't help myself because I'm like, first of all, who in their right mind is watching the Oscars? Who? Why? 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 Who's watching the Oscars? You've got to be 72 years old to actually sit down and watch the Oscars. Why? Who does that? That's like reading the newspaper. Who reads the newspaper? Unless you're 50 years of age or older, you should not be reading a newspaper. That's no disrespect to any of you out there that like a good old-fashioned paper. You sit down, grab you a nice cup of joe, and you sit out and read the paper. That sounds like some shit people did back in the 70s and 80s. Maybe the early 90s. Grow up, okay? If you're of a certain age, you have free reins to read the newspaper. I won't judge you. 50 and older, that's the age. So I look at the Oscars in the same light. What are you doing watching the Oscars? No one watches the Oscars anymore. And another thing, that was one response, and then another response. I said, and another thing, nobody ever knows the movies that's nominated for Best Movie of the Year at the Oscars. You've got to be a super movie buff to know these movies. Half of them aren't even made in the U.S. They're just crazy movies out of nowhere. A lot of these movies, I'm like, who's heard of this movie? I can't find one person that could even tell me what this movie is about. One person that's even in the movie. So I went off on a little diatribe about her watching the Oscars, and I chastised her. I was at my parents' house. I was watching the basketball games, kicking it with the fam. You know how we do it on a Sunday. So I drive home. I get home. And social media is blowing up. And I can always tell when something crazy happens because my phone just starts going berserk. I mean, bananas. Bing, 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 bing. Message after message after message after message after message. Usually when my phone does that, it's Washington related. And I got people hit me up. Yo, Louie T, did you see this? They're at me on Twitter. They're at me on IG, and I'm just getting messages. They're hitting me in the DMs. So I'm thinking, something happened. The furthest thing from my mind was that something occurred at the Oscars. I mean, again, who the hell is watching this shit anyway, right? So I open up my phone, and to my surprise, I see the blackest thing happen at the whitest event of the year. I never expected to see something like that happen. And this is why this is first on Smoke and Mirrors, because the first thing when you see a slap or something like that happen, you're thinking it's Hollywood. This shit is choreographed. Okay. It's hard to believe anything that you see that happens in Hollywood, especially with the advent of reality television. You know, if something like this would have happened back in the 80s, early 90s, it'd be a little bit more believable, because the only reality television show that was around in those days was The Real World. Okay. Like literally, there were no reality television shows. That wasn't even a thing. I still can't believe Survivor is still on. I thought Survivor was dead a decade ago, and I'm watching football on Sundays and new on Survivor. I'm like, Survivor's still on? What the hell is going on out there? Survivor was on when I was in high school. We actually used to watch Survivor. Anyway, with the advent of reality television, everything seems like it's an act. Even reality television isn't actually reality. It's scripted to a certain degree. Like, they may not tell them what to say or how to act, but they put them in situations where they know they're going to react a certain way. So it's sort of like and some of those people on the show, because they need a check, they're going to create a storyline. So it's false. It's not actually depicting a real narrative. It's what they've conjured up to make themselves more important on the show so they can continue to collect a check. Anyway, it's hard to believe everything you see. But there were clues that let me know that Will Smith walking up that stage, slapping the shit out of Chris Rock, and then turning around and walking back to his seat, and then shouting obscenities, keep my effing wife's name out of your effing mouth. As, you know, I forgot what channel. I would like to say CBS. As they muted the mic because they're like, whoa, what the F is going on right now? If this were a part of some kind of choreographed stunt, you don't need to mute the mic. This is what you want. There's history there too. But let's go back a bit. You tell me if this is smoke and mirrors to you, if this is some kind of all elaborate scheme to bring fresh eyes to the Oscars. Because other than this, the Oscars was just as dry as it always is. It's like eating bread plain with nothing on it. That's how the Oscars are every year. And that's what it was like up until that very moment. It was just like chewing on some wheat bread. Chris Rock made a joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. She has alopecia. I'm pretty sure Chris Rock is aware of this. He didn't care, but that's what comedians do. They don't give a shit. Okay. They cross the line oftentimes. All right. Especially guys that, host these shows. They always cross the line. I can't remember the name of the English guy, the British dude, but he filleted so many people. I haven't seen him since. Anyway, that's what comedians do. They often toe a line, and then sometimes they cross that line. Well, last night, Chris Rock crossed the line, and he did what I refer to as snap, crackle, and then he got a pop. So he wanted to be snappy. He wanted to be funny, tell a snap joke, get the crackle of the applause of the people sitting in the crowd, in the audience. And after he made the remark about G.I. Jane 2 with Jada Pinkett, because She had her hair cut down very low, almost bald, because she has alopecia. She talked about this, how she's emotional about it because her hair started falling out. And she's still dealing with that because who doesn't want hair? Hell, I'm a man and I want hair on my head. So I can't even begin to imagine how it would feel for a female. So she's sensitive about that. I'm pretty sure he knows that, but he didn't care. And this isn't the first time he's went after Will or he's went after Jada. But again, that's part of Hollywood. You're going to get roasted. You're going to get teased every now and again. You suck it up. It's a part of it. You may not like it. You may be embarrassed. You just ha ha he laugh it off, even though you might be pissed off, and you go about your day. Well, initially he looked like he was laughing, and I don't think he was ever laughing at that particular joke. I could be wrong. I know he laughed at the joke prior that was about him, and he laughed about that. Then, and you know, Will has been going through a lot with his wife and the whole entanglement situation. Okay, so there's a lot going. It's a lot bubbling under the surface. This has been a long 2 years essentially for him. You know, he gained a lot of weight. And there was this journey back to getting into shape, and you know, the whole entanglement thing happened, and he was going through a lot. Okay, he was going through a lot, and it kind of all just spilled over. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. He talked about his wife, made the joke about G.I. Jane 2. And for those of you who don't know the context, that was a movie with shit, what's her name? I can see her face. I can't think of her damn name. I always want to call her Courtney Cox. I know it's not Courtney Cox. She's from Friends. I don't know why I'm blanking on her name, but she played an army, a member of the army, shaved head in the movie, and he made a joke about that because she had her hair shaved and she had on a green dress. Will gets up, walks onto the stage. I don't know what Chris Rock thought was going to happen because he's still standing there cheesing in that typical Chris Rock big ass shit-eating grin. And he's just standing there like he's waiting to get slapped. Like, slap me. And Will hauls off and slaps the shit out of him and then calmly turns around and walks away. So let me first say this real quick. Let me say this. Demi Moore. Thank you, Eric Gomez. Thank you, Leonard Leak. Demi Moore. I got to give Chris Rock some credit. If this was not choreographed and this was legit, and I think it was legit. I don't think it was fake, and everyone that was there, they claimed that it was real. I believe it was real, personally. Because, again, you don't censor this if it's not. You want everybody to see this. If it's choreographed and you're setting it up, you want them to hear everything that's being said. You don't want to have this thing blanked out. They're supposed to see this. This is a part of the show. This was not a part of the show. Chris Rock, I'm about to do something that I may do from time to time. I try not to do this. But I'm about to talk out of both sides of my mouth. So follow me on this. On one hand, Chris Rock, there's a bit of admiration there for him to be able to sit there, let another man slap the shit out of him and not react. And maybe in that moment, first of all, Will Smith knew Chris Rock was a bitch. Like, he wouldn't have done that to somebody because I don't give a shit where we are. Grammys, Oscars, whatever. Another man puts his hands on me like that, we are rumbling on the spot. First of all, you're not going to raise your hand and I'm just going to stand there and let you slap me. There's some reflexes. There's something that's got to go on. He literally just stood there like, and he got his ass slapped. So on one hand, the restraint that Chris Rock was able to show in that moment, one, either you're a bitch, which I think Chris Rock, he ain't about that life. He ain't trying to fight nobody. That's not, because even after Will sat down at his seat and told him to keep his effing wife's name out of his mouth, he said, okay, I will. You just slapped the shit out of me. You don't tell me what to do. Anyway, Will knew who he was slapping. He knew Chris wasn't about that life. That's why he did the shit. Philly or not Philly. Everybody's like, oh, he's from Philly. He wouldn't have done that shit to somebody that, he wouldn't have done that shit to Dave Chappelle. Okay? He would have done that shit to Dave Chappelle. Their ass would have been rumbling. You know, Dave been lifting weights and shit. He wouldn't have done that shit to Dave Chappelle. He wouldn't have done that shit to Eddie Griffin. Anyway, I digress. So Will knew what he was doing, but I got to give Chris Rock some credit, even though I thought it was just because he was showing some bitch assness. I got to give him credit for just standing there and taking that shit and not reacting, because there would have been some repercussions had he reacted. But still, I mean, that goes out. Once a man puts his hand on my face, all that shit goes out the window. That's the last thing I'm thinking about is, will they ever invite me back to the Oscars? F that. F the Oscars. This shit is over. This shit is over. The night is over, because we about to be rumbling on this stage. They got security going to have to come up here and separate us. They're going to have to cut this shit off, and I doubt they want to come back and have the rest of the show. This shit is over. But the second part is, Chris Rock's a bitch. Because ain't no grown-ass man going to slap me in my face, then turn his back to me, as if to say, and you ain't going to do shit. I'm telling you right now, soon as he slapped me and he turned around, I'm taking my shoes off. Not because I'm on some female stuff. I'm taking my shoes off because I don't want him to hear my hard bottoms click clanking as I run to him, because as his foot hits the second step, he's catching a diamond cutter off the top step. I'm talking about, I'm grabbing his head, I'm diving all the way into the third row, and his shit is hitting the ground face first. And then I'm getting on top of him, and somebody's going to have to get me because I'm tearing his ass up. He didn't do anything. He stood there, he took it, then took some verbal abuse, and then said, I just got slapped the shit out of by Will Smith. He still kept making jokes. This is the greatest night of television ever. Not at my expense, it's not. And that's where people start to think this shit was choreographed. It was fake. There's no way. I don't know, man. I don't know. In my mind, the shit was real. I think Chris Rock took it too far. Talked about the man's wife. You want to rib me? Fine. I'm a man. I can take it. Don't go after my wife. You've done it before. This is not the first time you've gone after me. I don't know if Will had ever fired off warning shots before, but he did what he did. He said what he said, and Will did what he did. I'm not mad at Will. I ain't glad at him, but I ain't mad at him. That was his response to what Chris Rock did, and Chris ain't have no response. I'm glad he didn't press charges, because he could have. And you know Will Smith is a megastar, because ain't no way a dude is going to walk up on stage, anybody, female, male, female, doesn't matter, unannounced at an award show like that, slap the hell out of the dude that is reading off the nominees for the next award, and then let him go sit back in his seat as if nothing happened. That's superstar status. Not everybody gets to do that. If Mike Epps would have done that, they would have hauled his black ass out of there in a heartbeat. Okay? Anyway, that was crazy. Never seen anything like it. I don't think we'll see anything like it again. Wow. That's unbelievable. And I literally had to go back and make a post on Facebook retracting the statement that I had made earlier in the night when I had talked about nobody should be watching the Oscars unless you're 65 years of age or older. And I literally had to say mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. No one could have predicted that, though. Seriously. Shit was crazy. Ricky Gervais. Thank you, Captain Spartan. Ricky Gervais was the guy that literally filleted everybody when he hosted one of these prestigious award shows and pretty much was banned thereafter. I haven't seen Ricky Gervais in a movie. I think they banned his ass from Hollywood after he did that shit. I mean, he was killing A-listers, B-listers. It didn't matter what letter of the alphabet you were in. You were getting your ass slayed by Ricky Gervais. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to my next smoke and mirrors. I told you guys at the top of the show, I smell a trade. Smell another trade. This has been an off season full of trades. And I think I smell another one. So I was reading an article over the weekend. And it said that the New York Jets, tell me, is this smoke and mirrors? Or you think there may be some legs to this thing? The New York Jets are interested. Remember, they were in on Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill was like, I won't never go into the Jets. That's bullshit because, again, the Jets literally had the offer ready and the Chiefs were ready to pull the trigger, and then the Dolphins came in at the last minute with an offer that the Chiefs said, hey, this shit is even sweeter. We'll take that instead. Tyreek Hill wanted to go to the, Dolphins because that's home for him, but he wasn't in control of a damn thing. He didn't have a no trade clause. He could have pulled the Antonio Brown thing and said, I want to play for the Jets. And they might have felt, been in their feelings, but they could have also said, you don't have no damn choice. So they were all in on Tyreek Hill. Even though they drafted Elijah Moore, they signed Corey Davis in free agency last year. They were all in on Tyreek Hill. And what that says to me is they're missing a number one wide receiver, and they realize it. I said last year during, free agency that I wanted Corey Davis in Washington. Why? Because he's the perfect number two. He's nobody's number one. And I really think the world of Elijah Moore, and I think he's got a chance to be special and turn into a number one, but he's not that guy right now. That said, the Jets look around the AFC landscape, but really more specifically, generally, how this works is you win your division first, okay? You win your division first. Then we can talk about trying to do damage to the rest of the conference. And when they look around the division, they look at the Buffalo Bills, and they've got Stephon Diggs. They don't have a Stephon Diggs on their roster. Now, the Bills also have Gabe Davis, and they're looking at Gabe Davis, and they say, hey, we got Corey Davis. He can match that. And they're looking at the Bills, and they got Isaiah McKenzie, and they're like, hey, we got Elijah Moore. We can match that. Their problem is, and they used to have Cole Beasley, and they're like, we got Braxton Berrios. We can match that. They look at the Dolphins, and they say, shit, you just got Tyreek Hill. I don't have one of those. You got a Devontae Parker. I got a Corey Davis. I can match that. Like, hey, I got a Jalen Waddle. I got an Elijah Moore. I can match that. So they're looking around and they say, hey, I got all the shit that y'all got. I just don't have that number one thing y'all got. Bills got Stephon Diggs. Dolphins now have Tyreek Hill. I don't have one of those. In order to compete, I need one of those. So they're looking around at all of the receivers that are due for big money, like Tyreek Hill was. And they're saying, which one of these mofos ain't going to get paid? I might be able to get him just like I almost got Tyreek Hill. So they looked around at the landscape of these receivers that were drafted in the 2019 NFL draft that were non-first round picks. So there is no fifth year option. And they said, man, it's a slew of these boys available potentially. Now, the 49ers would be foolish to give away Deebo Samuel, but shit, we thought the Chiefs would never give away Tyreek Hill. Now, didn't we? So Deebo Samuel's going to have to be paid big money. What if the 49ers say, we just gave Trent Williams we just gave him $10 billion last offseason. We won't have that kind of money for you, bro. We got Boza. We got all this money that we got to disperse. We paid Eric Armstead. We don't got that kind of bread. We just paid our middle linebacker. We don't got that kind of bread sitting around no more, man. Jets are like, hey, I can take him off your hands for you. I don't see the 49ers engaging in those kinds of talks. Deebo Samuel is too important to their football team. So then they turn their attention to the Tennessee Titans. A.J. Brown, same draft, non-first round pick, doing work in this league. They're like, hey, Tennessee. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, hey, if you don't want him, I'll take him. And they're like, man, bad back. We ain't got shit else but A.J. Brown. He ain't going no damn where. We already cut Julio, just so y'all know we keep it A.J. Brown. He was like, okay. All right, we figured that. They also brought up DK Metcalf, and I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Somebody had brought this to my attention. They said, you know what? I think the Seattle Seahawks are having a fire sale. And you can go to the Seahawks, and if you make them an offer at their yard sale, anything is for sale. And I was like, nah, I don't think that's what they're doing, man. I think they're going to try to keep the core of what they got going on. They want to get rid of all the old parts, like Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner. They'll let all the old pieces go. But all the young stuff, they want to hold on to it. DK Metcalf is a young foundational piece. So is Tyler Lockett, and so, no, they're not letting those guys go. They'll hold on to those guys, but they'll let the old guys go. But I'm looking at DK Metcalf last year at the end of the season, really just like towards the middle of the season, all the way to the end of the season. He was a non-factor. They couldn't get him the football. And it started to really, look, all of it wasn't DK not being able to run routes, because we weren't talking about DK not running routes when he was kicking ass the first 2 years. Now, all of a sudden, he ain't getting the rock thrown his way. And now all of a sudden, everybody want to go back to his Ole Miss days. He came into the league, he couldn't run routes. I don't buy that. I just think Russ wasn't checking for him. He was frustrated. I think he might still be frustrated. That said, I think if you make the proper offer to Seattle, I think they're listening. And I think the Jets are desperate to get Zach Wilson all the weaponry he can stand. I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets went all in on a guy like DK Metcalf. Now, again, the Jets hold a very high pick in the upcoming draft. They could just take a receiver, but they have to protect their young quarterback. So they're going to more likely than not take a tackle. If I'm the Jets, I don't trade this year's one, but as soon as the draft is over, I start making a deal with Seattle. Hey, I give you next year's first. I give you next year's second. And I give you, the year after's fourth for DK Metcalf. You ain't trying to re-sign him anyway. Let me take him off your hands. I think Seattle might be like, yeah, I'll do that. You know why? Because, one, the Jets could stink. I don't care how many weapons they have. They could still be the Jets, right? And that pick could turn out to be number 2 overall. That puts you right in position to get you a damn quarterback. Because I don't think that guy is on the roster, and I don't know if they're looking to draft that guy. They could be staring at Malik Willis saying he's the perfect replacement for Russell Wilson. It could happen. Right at number 9 after trading with Denver. But they could also say, nah, I'm good on these quarterbacks this year. We'll roll with Drew Lock. We'll roll with Geno Smith. This is a lost cause season anyway. If, Drew Lock goes out and balls, surprise, surprise, we don't need a quarterback. Hey, how about that? But in the event that we do need a quarterback, which is more likely going to be the case, wouldn't it be nice to have the Jets' first-round pick in addition to your first-round pick, in addition to Denver's first-round pick? If I'm not mistaken, they got 2 1s, which is Denver's next year's first-round pick. And that would give you all the draft capital you would need to move up, even to number 1, if need be, to go get your quarterback of the future, if you had to do that. Still got Tyler Lockett. You can still draft you a receiver this year. They drafted Dwayne Eskridge last year. I think they would be willing to move on from DK Metcalf for the right price. I'm just saying, is it smoke and mirrors? Are the Jets just blowing smoke because they desperate out here thirsty? Or could they come away with one of these big-time receivers that's looking for a brand new deal? Just a little food for thought. Y'all do the dishes on that one. Another smoke and mirrors. This is for all my Washington fans out there. So today started the league meetings. Coaches are there. Owners are there. Staff are there. It's a big deal. This is another place where trades and things of that nature can take place. This is why I think the Jets are out here testing the waters and dipping their toe in that water to see if it's warm. And we'll see if something comes about or not. Anyway, you get quotes from coaches when they're at league meetings because that's what the media is there to do, talk to these coaches. And a lot of times, media members don't have access to all 32 coaches. You only have access to your local team that you're covering and then the team that they're playing against. So it's rare that a Washington beat writer would have access to Frank Reich, the Indianapolis Colts head coach. But this is an environment where you have access to Andy Reid. You have access to Doug Peterson, who used to coach Carson Wentz. You have access to Frank Reich, who used to coach Carson Wentz not only in Philadelphia as his offensive coordinator, but also in Indy as his head coach. And so you take advantage of all of these resources that are in front of you. And so that's exactly what they did. They went over, they talked to Frank Reich, and Frank Reich had this to say about Carson Wentz. And I quote, "Carson Wentz can be a top 10 quarterback in this league." Closed quote. So here's the smoke and mirrors portion of this. Is this smoke and mirrors, or is there validity to this that Frank Reich was out on Carson Wentz? That statement right there, coupled with the fact that Frank Reich, and I've started watching Hard Knocks. I told you I was going to watch it. I've started watching it. Frank Reich was literally spearheading the trade to go get Carson Wentz. When he became available, Frank Reich literally said, "We have to go get this dude. This is not an option. If we do not go get Carson Wentz, we have a problem." So they did that. I don't think Frank Reich was ready to give up on Carson Wentz. I think that the owner, Jim Irsay, wanted no parts of Carson Wentz. I think he was irked by Carson Wentz's stance on not getting the vaccine. And him playing a little wobbly down the stretch made it a lot easier for them to say he's not the right guy. And it's easy to throw dirt on him on the way out because there was already dirt on his name. So it's easy to just throw more on it and say, hey, guy's not a great leader. That's not what his teammates said. All right. But that's what they're saying. And Chris Ballard, he's servicing the owner. Okay. He fulfills the wishes and desires of the owner. If the owner says, I don't want this guy anymore, the GM can't then say, hey, I want this guy, and if you don't want him, then you got to get rid of me. You're not putting your job on the line for Carson Wentz. He just got here. That's not your guy. So, yeah, you turn your back on Carson Wentz, and the coach, what is he going to do? Owner and GM pretty much say, hey, this dude, we want him going. Frank Reich can say, hey, I think we can make this work. But they're going to start looking at him sideways like, bro, do you want to be here? Do you want to be a part of what we're doing? Because we said he's out. You can go with his ass if you want. And Frank's like, nah, why y'all talking crazy for, man? Y'all know I'm with y'all. So I think he got on board because he didn't have a choice. They put a gun in that man's head and said, hey, we can get you a new quarterback. He even went on to say, we don't have, trader's remorse because they didn't have a quarterback. They got rid of Carson Wentz not knowing what the future was going to hold for them. Wise people always tell you, don't quit your job until you got another one. Why do they tell you that? Because you could find yourself without employment. And then there's no income coming in. And if you had a little stash, holding away for a rainy day, now you're tapping into that. And next thing you know, you broke. Broke. You ain't got it. Well, the Colts quit their quarterback and did not have another plan in place and almost got left without a chair in this game of quarterback musical chairs. They got lucky that everything unfolded the way that it did. If Deshaun Watson was infinitely suspended and the Falcons didn't ruffle the feathers of Matt Ryan and the Browns didn't ruffle the feathers of Baker Mayfield and everybody was just going to stick status quo with their quarterback, they were screwed. They were absolutely, and they didn't have a first round pick to then say, well, we'll take one of these quarterbacks this year. They were screwed. They got bailed out. I think Frank Reich wasn't on board with this Carson Wentz trade. I think he was brought along as a hostage. He didn't have a choice in the matter. If he had it his way, Carson Wentz would still be in Indy. I truly believe that. It could be smoke and mirrors. And he could have been right along with GM Chris Ballard and owner Jim Irsay in wanting to oust Carson Wentz. I don't buy that. Not for 1 second. He didn't do all that he did to get Carson Wentz there. They share a lot of the same beliefs, whether it's religion, how they see the game. Look, Carson Wentz can be reckless at times. He's even admitted it himself. Like, that's one of the things he's like, as I've gotten older, I've got to be better. I think that's one of the things as you get older as a quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick, when he first got to Washington last year, said, one of the things that I've learned is when to say when to check it down, when to throw it away, when to, live to fight another day. I didn't have that in my vocabulary early on in my career. That wasn't in my toolkit. I could always make a play. Wentz is starting to figure out, I can't always make a play, but he still has that competitive spirit. And that's part of the package that Frank Reich was drawn to, was his competitive nature and spirit and the way he saw the field. And, there were so many things that Frank Reich and him shared, which is why Reich fell in love with him when he was in Philadelphia. He was part of the reason the Eagles drafted him. They talk about that story on Hard Knocks. And then he talked about the pursuit of Wentz when he became available via trade with the Eagles last offseason and how he had to have this guy. I don't think he just quit on him after 1 year. I don't buy it. Could be smoke and mirrors. I don't buy it. I think this was all Jim Irsay. And I think, again, it's lion season. Believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. I think some of the things we've heard rumor-wise with him in Indy, I think it's bullshit, personally. I'm not saying that wasn't the case in Philadelphia. I think he was coddled in Philadelphia. And I think there were some things that went off the rails in Philadelphia that they allowed to happen. It was similar to Robert Griffin III in Washington. He was enabled. And then you get to a point where the head gets so big, you can't walk it back. You created a monster. I don't think he was that way in Indy, personally. I think it's much easier to sell to the fan base that this guy was a headache. He was uncoachable. He didn't want to be coached hard. He wasn't a great teammate. It's easy to spread that propaganda because it was already out there from Philadelphia, where it was probably true. So it's easy to just piggyback off of that narrative, low-hanging fruit that people can grab and take a bite of and say, oh, yeah, this tastes like that shit from Philadelphia. I don't know about that, man. The more I dig into this, the more I watch, the more I listen, the more I see, the more I hear, the more I'm like, I don't know about this shit, man. Something's fishy around here. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. More smoke and mirrors. You guys tell me, is this smoke and mirrors or is this legit? Notre Dame Pro Day happened last week, end of the week. A couple of big names that had an opportunity to right or wrong at the combine. And this is why I say you just go out at the combine, you perform. You don't like what you do, you still got your pro day to clean it up. That's a lost art these days, guys. And I get it. You look at what happened to David Ajabo and you say, look, I want to limit the amount of times I work out for these teams because anything could happen. And I could go from top 5 pick to second round pick just like that. But Kyron Williams, running back for the Fighting Irish, ran a 4.65 at the combine. And I talked about how disappointed I was because I knew he wasn't a blazer. I knew he wasn't going to run a 4.4 anything. I could tell you that as a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, but what I did not see was 4.65 speed. I thought he was a 4.56 type of guy, 4.55, 4.54, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that's plenty fast in the NFL. Plenty fast. Okay. But then he runs a 4.65, and I'm like, ugh, that's nasty because he can do everything else. He's one of the best, if not the best, pass protecting running back in this year's draft class. He might be one of the best pass catching running backs in this year's draft class as well. So he's the complete package, not necessarily the greatest in between the tackles runner, but he's not afraid. He's not a tiptoe burglar in there. But he's a complete package. He's a complete back that you don't have to spend a first or second round pick on. You can get him in the third. I think you might even be able to get him in the fourth. That was until he ran a 4.54 and lit it up at his pro day. Caught everything, looked spry. I think that's more of a true representation of what Kyron Williams is as a football player. What I watched over the last 2-3 years at Notre Dame, that's more along the lines of what I saw from him. And I myself, as a Washington fan who keeps talking about wanting to upgrade the running back position, he'd make the perfect third running back on our team because he can do it all. And if Antonio Gibson went down, you could just insert Kyron Williams, keep J.D. McKissick as your third down back and change the pace back and keep the party going. They're not going to do that because we don't have, any extra picks picking a running back for us is a luxury that we don't have when you only got 6 picks. You got 9 picks, you got 10 picks, you can pick a running back. You got 6 picks, you got to stick to the essentials. Running back isn't one of those positions. But I think Kyron Williams really helped himself at the pro day. There was another guy, a big name, a first-round name, Kyle Hamilton, that did not impress at the combine in terms of his 40 time. Ran a 4.59 at the combine. And everything about Kyle Hamilton's pre-40 workout, the broad jump, the vert, his movement skills on tape, screamed, this is a 4.4 athlete. He's explosive. He's dynamic. And then he goes and runs damn near a 4.6. So everybody was like, what? Then you watch the replay of him running his 40 and he's zigzagging all over the damn place. Oh, he'll clean that shit up. He'll run faster. I said, I think he's going to run a 4.52, to 4.4 8, somewhere in that neighborhood. He only shaved off 0.03 of a second. So he went from a 4.59 to a 4.56. And everyone's looking around saying, and you want to be a top 10 pick? So the smoke and mirrors here is, are you buying Kyle Hamilton despite the 40 time? Are you buying him as a top 10 pick? Or is this 40 time enough to knock him down a few rungs and have this guy be a 10 to 15 or 11 to 15, 11 to 20 guy instead? He's not dropping out of the entire first round because of this. I still think he's a first round pick. I mean, a top 10 pick personally. But what says you? I want you to understand the quarterback position, or the safety position rather, and what it has entailed. We haven't seen a top 5 safety be selected since Sean Taylor went back in 2004. So understand, safeties don't go top 5 very often, for good reason. Because generally speaking, you can find a safety anywhere. We talked about, just like middle linebacker, you don't have to take a guy 8th or 10th or 12th overall to get a stud. It helps, but it's not the end all be all. Some of the best middle linebackers in the game weren't even first round picks. We talked about this already. Safety is kind of the same thing. It's one of those positions you can get a guy in the mid to late first, second, third, fourth, and get a stud. The last big name safety that was taken in the top 10 of the NFL draft was Jamal Adams, all the way back in 2017. He was taken 6th overall by the Jets. Pretty damn good safety, I might add. But it's rare. Just to compare, the last couple of years, 2 years ago, we had 2 big-time safety prospects coming out of smaller schools, in Jeremy Chinn and Kyle Duggar. Jeremy Chinn ran a 4.45 at 6'3", 220. Keep in mind, Kyle Hamilton is 6'4", 220. Jeremy Chinn came in, ran a 4.45 at 6'3", 220, and was in the running for defensive rookie of the year his rookie season, and has been phenomenal for the Carolina Panthers in his first 2 years of his career. Kyle Duggar out of Lenore Rhine, 4.49 he ran at 6'2", 220. Same draft, 2020. Chinn was a second-round pick. Duggar was I think Duggar was a second. He was the second safety taken in that year's draft class, I think right after Xavier McKinney. I think they went back-to-back picks in the second round. Chinn was the very last pick of the second round, if I'm not mistaken, or second or third to last pick of the second round by the Panthers. 2 second-round safeties playing their asses off in their young NFL careers. Similar size, much faster. Don't forget, though, you look at a guy like Justin Simmons, who plays for the Denver Broncos, one of the better young safeties in football. Not as young anymore, still playing top-notch ball. Love him to death. He wasn't a 4.4 guy. I don't even know if he was a 4.5 guy, to be honest with you, coming out of Boston College. I loved him coming out of BC. He's been a stud in the league. Does this change your perception of Kyle Hamilton? And would you spend a top 10 pick on him? Or is it smoke and mirrors and this guy's still going top 10 irregardless of what he ran? He said himself after the pro day, it is what it is. And that's what you say when you don't run fast. It is what it is. I can't tell you how many safeties I've heard say that. I remember it was a dude last year out of Pitt that was supposed to be one of the, secondary market safeties you can get in the draft. Wasn't a, upper echelon Trayvon Merrick type of guy, but that next wave, he was supposed to be in that. And then he ran like a 4.8. And he was like, look, It is what it is. My tape speaks for itself. No, the hell it don't. Not running a 4.8, bro. Sorry, not sorry. You ain't that damn instinctual. You ain't that damn good. You can run a 4.8 and think that, oh, my tape speaks for itself. It is what it is. Kyle Hamilton, on the other hand, he's not running a 4.8. He ran a 4.56. It's not like he ran a 4.8. We'll see. Anyway. Got one more smoke and mirrors. You guys tell me, is it smoke and mirrors or if it's legit? So, perusing through socials today, and I run into the agent of Derek Carr. And I'm wondering why I'm reading a comment from Derek Carr's agent. And he's responding to something, but I don't know what. Hell, I didn't even know what client he was referring to when he said, teams always do what's in the best interest of their squad, of their organization. Rarely do they do what's in the best interest of the players. As an agent, my client has to do what's in the best interest of himself. And we take we take into consideration the team, but we got to take care of ourselves first, essentially, is what he said, because that's what the organization is going to do. So I was like, well, what is he? First of all, who is he referring to? And what is he talking about? Then it all made sense. I saw the comment. I'm going to read you the quote from, and this guy's toxic. I've told you about this dude, man. Wherever he goes, dysfunction, toxicity, and losing follows. Because he's one of these arrogant New England Patriot dudes that think, I'm going to just show up, do shit my way, and y'all just fall the hell in line. This ain't state property. You don't get down or lay down. Josh McDaniels said, and I told you, we got these owner meetings, so you're getting these quotes from these coaches. And this was the AFC's coaches' day to speak. We'll get the NFC coaches tomorrow. So you'll hear things from the NFC coaches tomorrow. But we got all the AFC coaches. I talked about, Frank Wright, what he had to say. I've heard some quotes from Andy Reid, heard some quotes from Mike Tomlin. Here's Josh McDaniels today on the subject matter of Derek Carr. Remember, we talked about Derek Carr's contract, how we said he could be available. And we said, nah, he's not available. He wanted Josh McDaniels in Vegas. And they want Derek Carr. Like, he took that job knowing Derek Carr was there. Josh McDaniels said, quote, Raiders are, quote, trying to build around Derek Carr. As far as extension talks go, Derek going to have to make decisions about what's best for him, and we have to try to do what's right for the team. There will be a sweet spot in there, hopefully, for everybody, closed quote. To which his agent pretty much said, teams don't ever do what's right for the player. They do what's right for the organization, and my guy has to do what's right for him. Hopefully, we can find a sweet spot somewhere in the middle. Is this smoke and mirrors? Is there really trouble in Vegas? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? Or can Derek Carr be had out here on these streets? Because the money, he didn't go through all of this to get his best bud to Vegas only to leave on a technicality over some bread, did he? Nah. And I think the Raiders are holding that shit over his head. Like, bro, your best bud just showed up. You really about to bounce? Hell no. You ain't going nowhere. So shut up and sign this contract that we put in front of you. And he's like, I already took less once before. I'm not doing it again. I took less in good faith last time so you could sign Khalil Mack. And what did you do? You traded Khalil Mack. I'm not doing it again. I want my money. And the Raiders are looking around like, bro, you're not going nowhere. Devontae just got here. Shut up. Sign the deal. Interesting. At the end of the day, I think this one is smoke and mirrors. Cooler heads will prevail. I don't know what this sweet spot that Josh McDaniels is referencing, but there will be some kind of middle ground, and that sweet spot will be achieved. Derek Carr, I think, will be the one to have to make some concessions. I think he'll have to take slightly less than he wants to stay in Vegas. They know what they're doing. That's why they went and got his boy first, because that set a chain of events in motion that was going to keep Derek Carr there, because they knew he wasn't going to leave Davante Adams. They got a good thing going. He doesn't want to leave. They got Darren Waller. They got Hunter Renfrow. Now they got Davante Adams. They got a really good thing going in Vegas right now. They got Josh Jacobs. Okay? They got Kenyon Drake. They got shit. They got stuff. He doesn't want to leave. They know that, and I think they're going to use it against him. That's dirt ball. It's dirt McGirt, but that's the NFL. We all know how it goes. Interesting stuff. Anyway, I digress. All right, let's take some comments before we transition to our final segment. And I got a couple of super chats, so I'll take those. So let me get to those first. Luck, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Luck, writes, I would have pulled the 38 out of my boot. Pop, pop, pop. Pop, 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 pop. Goes Will Smith. Goes Will Smith. Yeah, look, I don't know if you're getting into the Oscars with a 38 in your sock, but some shit was going down. It ain't no way you gonna smack the shit out of me like that. First of all, you ain't gonna smack me, period. You could have just got a piece of my lip. You could have just got a piece of my chin, and it's on. That man got a full palm, full 5 fingers, okay? 4 if you want to be technical, and a thumb, okay? He got all of that on his face. I can't allow that to slide. As a wise man told me, nothing slides. Nothing slides. Can't have it. I feel you on that one, Luck. Luck, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Right. Pop, pop. So you wouldn't the 3 shots you let off the first time wasn't enough. You had to let off another 2 just to let them know that shit wasn't cool. And I'm gonna make sure I get my guy. I just let you know I gotta let off a couple more shots to let you know I ain't playing with your ass. Watch yourself. I ain't playing with your bitch ass. Again, you're not wrong, Luck. You're not wrong. Dylan Hinton, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Dylan writes, my school gets to interview Andy Reid on Thursday. I'm thinking about asking him about trading McNabb to the Skins, but what would you ask? I think that would be the best question to ask him, honestly, because there's really no other tie to him in Washington other than the Donovan McNabb trade. You could ask him about that and the Alex Smith trade, and what he thought about both quarterbacks, because he got over it in both instances. So what you could ask him, did he think Washington and Bruce Allen were marks, when he made those trades? Again, he's not going to answer the question if you phrase it that way. You've got to say it in a politically correct way that makes him comfortable answering it. If you phrase it to make them look like idiots, he's going to take the high road and you're not going to get the answer you're looking for. But I would ask him about both trades, not just the McNabb trade. I mean, that's a really fascinating discussion because he knew McNabb was done, which is why he would trade him in the division. There was no other way he would have traded Donovan McNabb in the division if he didn't think he was done. So clearly he thought McNabb was compromised, and that's why he did it. But I would love to hear that from his mouth. But I'd also want to know what he was thinking with the Alex Smith trade. I mean, he probably thought Alex could still play, but he just thought Alex Smith was a game manager, nothing more, nothing less. And they had a guy that they were really confident in Patrick Mahomes, and they were ready to start that chapter of the story, and they were ready to move on from Alex Smith. But I would love to know what he felt about both of those moves that were made, and because he was right in the center of both of those trades. It would be fascinating to hear his response. Again, I don't think you're going to get much out of Andy Reid. He's a fun-loving guy. I don't think he's going to throw anybody under the bus. I would love to inject him with some truth serum and ask him those questions, because I'd love to know what he really thought of this organization when it was pretty much run by Bruce Allen, because he got over twice, not once, but twice. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like, it's amazing that he was able to get away with it a second time. So I'd love to know what he thought about that. But anyway, I digress. All right. So those were the two super chats that I had. I'm going to take a couple of these hashtags. I'm definitely not going to get to most of them. So if you want your comment read, if you got something you really want to say, use the super chat. See. Somebody said, first of all, Anthony Shedder says, I just got to read this. How is that the blackest thing? Come on, Lou, don't do that. I understand where you're coming from. Come on now. Johnny Depp isn't walking on the stage, or Brad Pitt isn't walking on the stage, and he's not with Angelina Jolie anymore, but Brad Pitt's not walking up on the stage and slapping Chris Rock because he's talking about Angelina Jolie. Okay? What I'm saying is white dudes ain't doing that shit. Let's keep it a buck. I'm not trying to demean our brothers and sisters out there, okay? Because not everybody conducts themselves in that manner. But let's keep it a buck, okay? That was some G shit. That was some real OG, triple OG shit. That's some black shit. Let's call it spade a spade. Ain't nobody else walking on that Oscar stage and doing that shit. So, but I get where you're coming from. Like, you don't want to paint that broad stroke over everybody and say that, I get it. That was some black shit, man. I'm going to just call it what it is. Anyway, I digress. I got another super chat here, so I'm going to take that real quick. William Edwards, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy William writes, I see and respect your opinion on the slap heard around the world, but Chris Rock was doing his job. Again, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. One of the female announcers took a shot at Jada. Physical violence over comedy, unacceptable. Again, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's all in how you view the situation. You could see it from 80 different perspectives. I'm not going to tell anybody they're wrong. The people that I have a problem with are the ones that today are acting like, you sound like you're outraged. The people that took this situation and tried to spin it into domestic violence, like, those are the people, keep them the hell away from me today. Okay? Because, to me, you're taking too big of a leap. You're taking too big of a leap. All right? And I could see how they could try to connect dots that aren't there. And I read some of the comments to see how you would get to a domestic violence situation with the way he answered. Because remember, 10 minutes later, the man won an award and he did not apologize. He pretty much rationalized his behavior by saying, love will make you do some crazy things, essentially. And people that, have been in domestic violence relationships or know people that have dealt with domestic violence are saying that sound like some shit that a domestic violence abuser would say. Someone that commits domestic violence would say that because that's what they do. They tell you they'll never do it again. Oh, I'm so sorry. I love you so much. That's why I do this. And so they tried to connect that dumb shits don't connect. Okay. The man was defending his wife. Did he take it too far? Yeah, that argument can be made. And again, that's where the perspective comes into play. Your perspective is Chris Rock's doing his job. His job is to go up there, not just to announce the nominees for the award, but also make people laugh. He's a comedian. That's his job. And shit can get uncomfortable when comedians get the mic. You don't know what's going to be said. Shit can get uncomfortable. That's part of the territory. I get that too. I've always said this, and I'll always continue to say this, and it goes to both sides of this argument. It goes for both parties involved, Will Smith and Chris Rock. I've always said with Colin Kaepernick, and this is a perfect example, you are free to say and do whatever you want in this country. You're free to do and say whatever you want. You're not free from the consequences. If you go out and you shoot somebody, you can go shoot somebody. You're not supposed to, but you can. That's the society that we live in. You know, you go to another country and you ain't shooting no damn body. But here in America, you can shoot some damn body. You're not free from the consequences that come from you firing and discharging your weapon. Okay? You can say whatever the hell you want if you're Chris Rock. You're a comedian. That's your job. You can say what you want. You're not free from the consequences that come from the words that come out of your mouth. And the consequences was getting your ass slapped the shit out of. Now, again, is that the right thing to do? No. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it's not either. Again, depending on how you view it. I'm going to walk on both sides of the fence here. I'm walking the tightrope because I can see it from both sides, right? I know if I've been going through a lot and I've been taking a lot of L's over the last year or two, and I'm up to here with the shit, and then you boil me over the top. And I might have already talked to you in the past about, hey, bro, I need you to tone it down when you're talking about me or my wife. And then you still come after her. And then again, it's the sensitivity of the situation. My wife has a condition in which hair is falling out. She cannot keep her hair on her head. She has alopecia. It's an uncomfortable situation for her. She's talked about it on her show. It's a very popular show, Red Table Talk. So he's aware of her alopecia. I'm not buying the fact that he's not aware of her alopecia. He made a joke. She viewed it as being insensitive. So did Will. He decided to take up for his wife. Again, you're free to say whatever you want, Chris Rock. You're not free from the consequences that come from whatever you say. Will Smith is free to walk up that stage and smack the shit out of Chris Rock. He's not free from the consequences that come from that. If Chris Rock would have had that 38, if Chris Rock would have had a knife and he stabbed his ass, that's on Will Smith. If Chris Rock would have stood there, took it like he did, and afterwards pressed charges, that's on Will Smith. You are not free from the consequences that come from your actions. So that's how I feel about that. You're right. It is his job. Okay. But that's a really dicey job. Okay. Being a comedian, you've got to be able to take all that comes with it. It's a tough job. And if you want to go in that moment, in that arena with all those people there, and that's the best of the best, that's the A-list, that's the upper tier of Hollywood. If you want to go there and you want to embarrass me and my wife in front of our peers, because Will Smith and Jada Pinkett are A-listers. So you want to embarrass me in front of my peers, and I've had enough? It is what it is. So I get where you're coming from, William. I also get it from the other side of that thing too. So thank you for the super chat. William, greatly appreciate you. Kevin the PRF, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Kevin the PRF, writes, whoever knew the most gangster rapper from my childhood was Fresh Prince. I remember when he had a beef with Eminem, and the beef started over Eminem cussing too much. And he said, you are such a dope MC. You can make dope rhymes without cussing. I never took. This is the same guy. Welcome to the city where the heat is on all night to the band to the break of dawn. Welcome to Miami. I'm Miami. This, I like. You can't tell me getting jiggy with it. Na 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 na. Like, it ain't nothing gangster about that. But when somebody's been pushed to the limit, and we all have that. Like, this is the thing. The nicest person you know has a limit. Push them to the limit. Push that person to the limit. And you see what happens. Turn into a whole different person. Everybody's got that in them. If you push the right buttons, you can get that. You can get the smoke. So, apparently, the West Philly and Will never actually ever went away. Around here, we have a saying, you know, you can take the Berkeley out of me, you know, take me out of Berkeley, but you can't take the Berkeley out of me. That's one of the hoods around these parts or where I'm from. They say Berkeley born, Berkeley bred. You can take somebody out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of them. It's always there. You know, it's always there. Even if you suppress it, it's always there. Chris Rock got a little taste of that. Matthew, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Right. One more time, Coach K. We almost got 3 in the final 4 from the ACC. Come back to the ACC where you belong, Maryland. Great work as always, Lou. Thank you, Matthew. I always like to tease Maryland because Maryland, they are like that child that never really got the respect that they wanted from their parents. And so they decided to leave home early, but they never really wanted to leave. They just wanted their parents to love them. And Duke and North Carolina and Virginia, they got all the attention. Never Maryland. They weren't getting enough attention. So they left. And they try to act like they don't care, but they're keeping up with everything that's going on. They're clipping out all the newspaper articles. They're saving all of the articles online. They're keeping all the receipts of everything that's going on in the ACC from afar, but they try to act like they don't care. Oh, the Big Ten is so tough. This might be the best conference we've ever been in. Shut up. Big Ten is trash. Every year they get 9, 10 teams in the tournament. And by the time we get to the second weekend of the tournament, there's 1 or 2 of them bastards left. No, this ain't the old classic ACC. It's a lot of teams in here that's funny looking. It's like even Miami. They used to be in the Big East once upon a time. It's weird at times seeing them and Florida State and some of these teams that's in the ACC now that were in the Big East before. But Pitt and all those teams that came over when they started to do all of this realignment. But at the end of the day, some of the best college basketball still resides in the ACC. Look, some of the teams aren't what they used to be, but Virginia just won a national championship. North Carolina's always sniffing around something. You know what we about. Duke Blue Devils. You know what we do. There was a couple of years in there where Notre Dame had some dudes and they was playing some quality ball and hanging around. Florida State, I think they was just in the Elite 8 last year. If not last year, the year before that. Miami, like you said, 3 teams. I tweeted this out. 3 teams from the ACC were in the Elite 8. No other conference had more than 1. We were the only conference with multiple teams in the Elite 8, and we had 3. We were 6-1 at one point going into the second weekend. We were dominating. Like I've always said this. I have pride about my conference, division, whatever I'm in, I got pride about that. You're not going to talk shit about it. If as family members, we can talk shit about each other. North Carolina can talk shit about Duke. Duke can talk shit about North Carolina and Virginia and, you know, and Florida State, and Miami and NC State and Clemson. We can talk because we family. You're no longer family, Maryland. When you decided to jump ship and go to the Big Ten, you became an outsider. You don't get to talk about us. Keep your mouth shut. You worry about Big Ten matters. Mind your business. This is no longer yours over here. This is of no concern to you. I love Maryland because Maryland's so salty. They fans so salty. Oh, man, Laurie, they so salty. And I love it. They want Duke to lose so bad. But we not. We not. We doing this for Coach K. He going out like John Wooden. John Wooden is the GOAT as far as I'm concerned, and Mike Krzyzewski is right behind him. John Wooden went out into the sunset, winning the national championship, and Coach K about to do the same exact thing. And he's setting all kinds of records. I was like, yo, if y'all gonna get bounced, at least get my man to his 100th tournament win, because ain't nobody else touching that shit. Go get 100. Go get a stat. He's like, no. We're going to get the 100, and I see you a few more games. We're going to get you to your 13th Final Four, which sets you apart from any other coach in history because he was tied with John Wooden with 12. All right, well, let me leapfrog him and get to 13. And on the way out, let me get this 6th national championship. Ain't nobody touching that shit neither, except for John Wooden. We know what he was about. I think the next closest coach in college basketball has 2 national championships, active coach. I think it's my man from Villanova. If I'm not mistaken, he's got 2. That's the next closest. Mike's got 5. 5 of them things. 5 piece. We're going for 6. We're going for 6. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. JP, my guy John Perez says, Lou, we are not friends this week. Tar Heel Nation, mother effer. Nah, we ain't friends this week. And I'm cool with that. You know what it is. I got nothing but ice cold revenge waiting on your ass. You know what revenge is. This is a dish best served ice cold. And this L we got waiting on you is going to be so cold-blooded. Because of what you did to Mike on his senior night. His last game at Cameron Indoor. Y'all came in and disrespected the king. But I told y'all already, you come for the king. You better not miss. You dirty sons of a bitches. Don't worry. Y'all gonna get y'all. I love the fact that we brought Carolina all the way here. Because now Carolina fans is on 10. They think they about to do something. It ain't nothing worse than getting your hopes up and then getting your ass whooped. That's what we intend on doing. Whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. We about to whoop that trick. Anyway, I digress. Got another super chat. Then we'll transition to our final segment. Matthew, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Matthew. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Matthew, writes, so well said. Maryland no longer has those nice trips to the warmer weather. They can enjoy Iowa, Nebraska, etc. now to travel too. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't even make sense that they out there playing it at Nebraska, at Iowa. At Purdue. I mean, are you serious? Yeah. Anyway. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to our final segment of the show. And of course, it's the Gem Droppin Session. Or excuse me, Gem Droppin Session. It's garbage time. So, did you guys hear the news today that the Detroit Lions are going to be on Hard Knocks? How do you guys feel about that? I'm like, really? Who in the hell wants to see the Detroit Lions on Hard Knocks? Like, who's watching that? I think they did it because of their head coach, Dan Campbell, and how, he's a walking soundbite, the whole, biting kneecaps and all that shit. There's only so much Dan Campbell you can fill up the Hard Knocks show with, right? That roster is ass. They don't have any players that you want to follow. Like, who's going to carry that show other than Dan Campbell? Like, give me one player that you're excited to see during this Hard Knocks. I can't think of one. And there may be one or two really interesting players. Maybe DeAndre Swift is a really interesting dude. Maybe TJ Hawkinson. He looks like he might be some fun, like a George Kittle type. But I'm like, ugh, that's nasty. Detroit Lions, that's the best you could come up with? Hey, remember, a few years ago, they made it a rule that you couldn't refuse Hard Knocks unless you had one of two things going for you. You had a brand new head coach. You made the playoffs last year. Other than that, you're subject to Hard Knocks. If they come knocking, you got to answer the door. This is the best they could come up with was the Detroit Lions. Wow. I think it's kind of one of those situations where you like, hey, how many times can we do Dallas? How many times can we do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? How many times can we do the Baltimore Ravens? Like, how many times can we do these teams that we've done multiple times? Let's get some fresh blood in here. But the Detroit Lions, though? I don't know about that, man. That's weird. I don't know. Look, half of y'all like, I don't watch that shit anyway. Who cares? Touche. I still watch Hard Knocks, but you got to give me a reason to watch. I don't know if the Detroit Lions are a good enough reason to watch, truly speaking. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 249th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Wow, what a weekend. And this week is going to be crazy because we're going to turn the calendar to April, which means we are less than a month away from the NFL draft. So it's getting closer. The NBA playoffs are about to start in about a week's time. MLB is about to kick off in about a week's time. Final Four takes place this weekend. We get the national championship game on Monday. There's so much going on. It's just great. And all of my teams are right smack dab in the middle of it. I must say, as a fan, I never enjoyed this much prosperity. My Grizzlies are second in the West right now. And with Steph Curry being out for the remainder of the regular season, I'd like to think that we're going to be able to hold on to that 2 seed. And we're playing phenomenal ball anyway. My Braves, obviously coming off of a World Series. Sucks that Freddie Freeman won't help us defend. But, we got Matt Olson, and we're ready. We locked, stocked, and ready to go. And my Duke Blue Devils are trying to do what I don't think a lot of people thought they were going to do after they lost to Virginia Tech in the ACC championship. So I didn't think I'm not going to sit here and act like I thought we were going to do this, but Jeremy Roach being inserted into the starting lineup has changed everything. Everything. That's what we've been missing. That's what the game's been missing all year long. We had Wendell Moore trying to play point guard. He's not a point guard. And he's been Mr. Everything for us this year. We needed a real point guard. And Roach has showed up, showed out, showed why he was a McDonald's All-American. And now this team is reaching its full potential because we got the one thing that we were missing. You can't win in the NCAA tournament without elite point guard play. That's, to me, the biggest thing that you can have. And really, it's bleeding over into the NBA game. You don't have a point guard, it's tough to win. Got to have one of those. And it's like that in college. It's starting to become that way in the NBA now. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. You guys know what it is. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. We'll come back. We'll do this again on Wednesday. For you Washington fans out there, We'll probably have something to chew on when Ron Rivera is made available to the media tomorrow. So we'll probably get a soundbite or two. And so we'll chew on that. I got a couple of things that I may try to throw out there, a couple of questions I would like to ask, but I'll save it. We'll see what Ron says tomorrow, and then we'll throw something out there after we get some quotes from Ron Rivera tomorrow at the league meetings. So in any event, you guys have a good one. Take care, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.